Okay, here we go. Watch the controls on YouTube. Watch the control on the phone like that. Right here, so it don't press the thing. There you go. All right. Get started. I don't see anything. Still trying to get it together. I'm not rotating it.
It's saying it's locked.
All right. Okay. All right, so here we go. Again, welcome to the Garden of Eden. I'm going to be teaching about winter sowing. Winter sowing is a way to grow vegetables outdoors while it's cold. You do not need a greenhouse. You do not need grow lights. If you have an area where you're receiving full sun, then you're good to go. So just to let you know some of the containers, a lot of people went to sow in milk jugs or water jugs. But if you have something that can hold 3 to 4 inches of soil, you're good to go. This is a venti cup from Starbucks that you can use. This is a water bottle you can use. You're not limited to just milk jugs. This is a vinegar container, juice container. All right, and then we have the strawberry container, and we have a grape container, which is pretty much the same thing. Hi, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you click like and subscribe to the channel? Let me know where you're at right now, and if you already went to sow, is this your first time went to sowing? All right, for your containers, now this is what we're doing. Now, typically when you're doing a milk jug, you're gonna cut the jug in half, and you're gonna leave maybe an inch, maybe about an inch of the jar attached because you want it to open like a lid, okay? This is what you do. So also, if you are using a cup like this, you do not have to make it like a lid. You can if you want, but you can cut some holes in the top. Make sure you have some drain holes in the bottom, and you're good to go. All right, for these containers, they already come with holes in them, but you can add some more holes because you want to make sure that when it rains or snows that you're going to get some water in your container. And then they already have holes at the bottom. You can add more holes. And if there is a plastic label right here, you want to remove that plastic label because you don't want anything to hinder you from getting sunlight to your seedlings. So, like I said, with this one, you want to cut it until it's got a little hinge right here. And then for this container, it doesn't have the handle. So what you want to do is, and I took my soldering iron and I cut some holes. You can see the holes right there to mark where I am going to leave it attached. So I'm going to cut this in half, leaving that small part attached. You can use scissors, box cutters, whatever you have. And you want to cut all the way around the container. Okay. So you get back to that hole that you made already. And then your container is going to open like that. Now, if you make a mistake and cut it all the way off, you can always tape it back. Don't trip on that, okay? Now, your containers, I know you saw me with all these different containers, but you want to make sure that your container is going to hold the seed that you are sowing. If you're going to sow something that like tomatoes, bell peppers, eggplant that's going to get tall, you want to make sure you use your tall containers. When I'm doing my herbs, especially my perennial herbs, they're not going to get very tall. So I can use a short container like this. Some of my flowers, they're not going to get very tall. I can use containers like this. But if you're unsure, always use the tall containers for everything if you don't know. I've been doing this for a couple of years, so I'm kind of familiarized with what's going to grow in what. So the other thing is you want to remove your tops. No tops on winter sown containers. Now, that doesn't mean something like this. Just a jug. You don't want to have tops on your jugs But you want to have tops on containers like this, but you want to have enough holes where you can allow the water, rain and snow to get into it. Okay. Also, like I said, for these containers, you can punch holes in the tops, or you can cut it and make a lid. I just chose to do holes in the tops. To me, that's easier. And then the holes in the bottom. So, okay, we got our containers. We have our containers cut in half. And we have our holes in the bottom. Just like anything that you would plant, you always have to have drainage holes because you do not want to drown your plants. Okay, so our next thing would be is to fill our containers 3 to 4 inches with soil. So that's about 3 to 4 inches in that container. That's 3 to 4 inches in this container. And this is about 3 inches in this container, if you can see it. Okay, so now all you're gonna do, you're gonna have your soil, pre-moisten your soil. If your soil's not pre-moistened, no big deal. I'm just gonna stand right here. If your soil's not pre-moistened, no big deal. You can moisten the soil after you get it in the container, okay? So we're gonna fill it up. All right. That looks about right. Now I wrote on the side of it, you don't have to be that organized, and you're gonna fill your container up like that. So you're already halfway through the process. Now you need to decide what you're gonna sow. For me, I'm gonna sow some onions. So this is what I got going. But depending on the size of your seed and what you're growing, that determines how many seeds you put in your container. Now if you're growing something like lettuce seeds are very tiny. So you can just kind of take a pinch and sprinkle them. If you have something like German chamomile, very small seed, take a pinch and sprinkle them. But when we start moving up to the bigger seeds, like peas, now a lot of people may tell you, oh, do not start peas. Peas don't like their roots disturbed. I'm gonna leave that up to you because different gardens do different things. They have different experiences. And if you are an experimenter, you're gonna pretty much try anything and just see if it works. These are some squash seeds, which this is not time to sow squash. So now you have your soil in here. My soil is pre-moistened, but I do have a spray bottle. I'm gonna spray some more water in it, just to make sure. Because you wanna make sure that soil is really moist. Please share the video, click like, subscribe, share it with a friend that wants to garden, think they might want to garden, or they want to know a different kind of way to grow their own plants. Now your plant markers, these are recycled mini blinds that were cut into little sticks. And of course you have the ones you can buy, and you have ones that you can make. This is actually an upcycled plastic container that I cut into my little garden markers. So whatever you're growing, so we have the container with the holes in the bottom, with the cap off, cut in half with the moistened soil. So now you're gonna determine what you're gonna grow, and you wanna go ahead and put a marker in there. We're gonna mark this like 3 different times because we wanna make sure that we don't have a surprise garden. I've been there, done that, that's not fun. So here, I'm gonna be growing the sweet Spanish onions. So I'm gonna just put onions. If you want to put the date, you can put the date. I mean, if you just wanna keep up with what happened, you can put your date on there, and you're gonna put that into your container. All right, so you wanna put it on the side so that you can know what's in your container. You also want to, and this is before we start planting, you also want to put it on the outside of your containers as well. Write it really big. Onions is what I'm doing. I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, you want to put it on there because you want to use a marker that's a paint marker. You do not want to use a regular marker. The sun, the rain, and everything will mess up your stuff, and you won't know what's in the container. So always use paint markers. You can get them from Michael's, you can get them from Amazon, and you have different ones. I have the fat one, and then I have a skinny one, which is good for writing on the little tags and stuff. Okay. All right. So I have onion written one time here. Onions on my tag. And I'm going to write it one more time. Just because. Okay. I can walk across the yard. I say, look, the onions are growing. Okay. So when you get ready to sow your seed, depending on how big your seed is. Again, if it's really tiny seeds like this, you want to make sure your soil is moist and you only want to sprinkle it on the top. That's it. Press them in. That's it. Do not cover them up. Lettuce seeds, you want to sprinkle them on the top and maybe, now what I use is sand. I put a little sand on top, or if you don't have sand, just a light dusting of whatever you have. And then you're going to sow your seeds directly in here. Now let's talk about what we're sowing. Right now it's cold. I'm in zone 7B, 8A. Our last frost, I believe, is maybe the second week in March, something like the 9th. So I want to do my cold hardy, my cold tolerant vegetables and flowers and herbs. Any of your perennials, any of your natives, you can do that right now. For me, in my zone, I will not start doing like warm weather spring vegetables until maybe mid-March. That's when I'll do that. So this is my seeds, my onion seeds. And I'm going to grow quite a few onions. And you can be generous with onions because onions easily separate. They're easy to transplant. They're not fussy about the roots being disturbed. Now I dumped them in my hand so I can show them to you, but I'm going to actually take this whole packet that I have and I'm going to sprinkle it across here. I'm putting them all in there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of soil right over the top of them. Okay? If you have any questions, shoot me a question. Click like, subscribe, and share the video to anybody that you know that is interested in gardening, interested in growing their own vegetables and fruit. And you're just going to moisten it until it is moistened. All right? We are almost through. So now, in order to keep that greenhouse effect that we're trying to achieve, you can put a hole in the top here and a hole in the top there and then fasten it together and you're done. You can use duct tape. I prefer duct tape because I'm trying to keep the inside of the container warm. So I will take my duct tape. Now you can duct tape it completely around or you can just duct tape it in a couple of spots to hold it. It's always better when you have a partner, but if you don't have a partner like me, then this is what you do. You're going to take your tape. You're going to start wherever you start. It doesn't matter. You just want to get the tape around it. Okay, tape, behave yourself. Okay, you want to seal it up. Seal up your container. So we got that side sealed. So we're going to go to the other side. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now my other container, I'm gonna do some lettuce, but I'm not gonna do a lettuce in a tall container because the lettuce seedlings don't get too big before you have to transplant them outside. Okay, this is your container. So you're all sealed up. Now just in case, we always want to write it again, onions. You can't go wrong when you've marked it inside, outside. Now, Trudy Davidoff, who kind of made this thing come to light and made it apparent that we can do this, she takes and puts a piece of tape on the bottom and writes the name on the bottom because the sunlight won't get to it and it won't erase the name. So now your container is ready to go outside. Put it where it can be rained on. Don't put it in a carport or in a garage. You want to put it outside. It needs to be rained in, snowed in, and it needs some sunlight. So you're ready. So this is one container. So we're going to do another container. That is my grape container. It has holes on the bottom. I added some extra holes. It has holes on the top. I added some extra holes, and I made sure to take the label that was on the top off. So pretty much the same process. I'm going to do lettuce. In this container, lettuce will probably be ready in a couple of weeks to go out in your garden. So you just fill up your container. All right, fill up this container and leave some head space, maybe a couple of inches of head space. There you are, really simple. And then you're gonna take your spray bottle and you're gonna moisten that soil. And like I said, because it's lettuce, lettuce does not need to be buried that deep. Remember, you're gonna bury the seed twice the thickness of the seed that you're sowing. So I am going to, I had ran across, let me shout out Plant and Heal. Plant and Heal is a seed company. She also sells live plants. I got these seeds from her. She's an independent grower, just a small grower. You might want to look her up. She is on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. She's very personable. She will answer any questions that you have. Get in contact with you, whatever. Her seeds are really good. So this is what I'm doing. This is the red snail leaf lettuce. So with this, now depending, I like to grow leaf lettuce. I don't like to necessarily grow lettuce heads. So that's how much this is about in my hand, maybe about 30, 40 seeds. Because lettuce is just so forgiving. I'm not going to worry about spacing them any particular way. I'm just going to pinch them and sprinkle them wherever they fall. All right, that's it. Now, I told y'all about sand if you came on in the very beginning. So this is just regular sand. And I'm going to take the sand and I'm just going to sprinkle some sand across the top of my container. Now, I just taught a class maybe a few weeks ago where we put cinnamon also on our plants because my yard floods a lot. It's very moist and I do not want the plants to damp off. Cinnamon is antifungal, so give it a little sprinkle of cinnamon. That will help because you don't want to put all that work into, and I didn't do it in the other container, but it's okay. Okay, so you don't want to do all that work, get your stuff growing, and then you're subject to dampen off or fungal disease because the fungus will fight for the nutrients of the seedling. So once you do this in a container like this one, you just seal it up. This is very forgiving. Now, if you want, because it has these little gaps, you can put a piece of tape on the side to kind of hold the moisture in, but you really don't. Now, what I didn't do to this container, and I just realized it, is put what it is, lettuce. Okay, and this is the red snail. Okay. And because I didn't tape it up, it's forgiving. I can just open it back up, stick my marker in it, close it back up. I'm good to go. Am I going to mark it 1,000 times? I sure am. Red snail lettuce. All right. And like I said, you can put some tape on the side if you want, or this will be it. You have your marker inside, you have your marker outside. It's good to go to set outside. Now you have to make sure, like I said, my yard floods. I don't want to put everything on the ground in my yard. So what I do is I have a pallet and I have everything sitting on the pallet because my yard floods and I don't want my containers to be waterlogged and destroy my stuff. So we have lettuce, we have onion. Now I have celery, not celery. This is not celery, this is dill. Reading is fundamental. So I have dill. So I'm gonna sow dill. Now you can take the seed, you can plant it in the ground. You can just scatter it if you want to. The other benefit of winter sowing is you can control how your plants are planted. You can put them in the spacing, in the style that you want to, and it's just not all willy-nilly. So that's another good benefit to it. So these seeds are about the size of the lettuce seeds. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna sow the dill. I'm gonna use this container. This is a Trenta Starbucks container. Holes in the top, holes in the bottom. I'm gonna fill it up with soil. I'm just gonna scoop it. All right, 3 to 4 inches is good. Spray the top. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe. All right, it's moist. There you go. And I'm just gonna take my dill and I'm just gonna sprinkle them. Again, something else that's very forgiving. You see my seeds on the top? So we're going to add some sand. And like I said, if you don't have sand, just put some of the soil, just a little dusting of the soil on the top, just to cover the seeds barely. You don't want to bury them too deep because some seeds do need light to germinate. So this is our dill. All right. We are going to put our marker in here. Dill. Put that right there. And we're going to put our top on it. See, the good thing about containers like this, you don't have to put tape on them. And once the seedling, because it is a cold tolerant plant, which I planted some in the yard and it snowed on them and everything and it did well. So once it gets the second set of true leaves, not the first set of leaves, which is what is cotyledon, I might say it wrong, but you know what I'm talking about. The first set of leaves, the embryonic seed leaves, that's not what you want to transplant it on. You want to wait till it gets the second set of true leaves, then you can start putting it in the garden where you want, or put it in containers. So this is dill. That went really quick. So we have winter sowed dill in a Starbucks cup, onion in a vinegar jar, and lettuce in a grape container. They just need to go outside, uncovered, so they can be rained and snowed. And I keep emphasizing this because people will put them on their patios or they'll put it on the carport in the garage, because in our little brain we think about, oh, this just needs sunlight. Well, with winter sowing, it needs sunlight and moisture. And then what you're going to do is, as the days warm up and you're not getting a lot of rain, because some people say set them and forget them. No, do not set and forget your winter sowing containers, because depending on what your climate is, everybody's climate is not the same. You want to make sure that you're going to see condensation and moisture in your container. If you do not see that, you need to water your container. If you pick your container up and it's very light, that's an indication that it's dried out. You do not want them to dry out, because your seeds will not germinate, or your little plants that started to germinate will die. The way that I water, some people will tell you to spray in the inside of the bottle. I choose not to do that. What I will do is get a container and fill it up with maybe 2 inches of water, and I set my container in it for a few minutes and let it wick from the bottom, just like you would bottom water seedlings that you started in your greenhouse or on your windowsill. You want to do that because you have a less chance of having fungus, damping off, and all that other stuff. So you want to do bottom watering. You take the container. I just did it a little while ago where I had some containers, because the smaller the container, the quicker it dries out. So I actually have some herbs in these water bottles, and this doesn't hold a lot. This holds even less than this. So these will dry out faster. So what I did today is I got some water. I set my containers in the water while I went tended to something else in the garden. When I came back, you can pick it up and feel the difference. You can feel the weight of the water in them. And I put them back. You want to keep checking on your plants maybe every other day or so, just to make sure that they're staying moist. And like I said, the closer it gets to spring, the warmer the days are, you're going to have to check on them even more. But other than that, you can grow your vegetables, your herbs, your fruit, your all that in these bottles. Instead of going and pay $4 and $5 for one plant, you can buy a pack of seeds, and you can have as many plants as you want. You can grow extra plants and trade them with your friends. Look how much that costs. $1.96. But once you start growing your own plants and saving your own seeds, this will be the only seeds that you have to buy. All you have to do is save your seeds, and your seeds will be fresher. They'll be better for the environment because they have acclimated to your temperatures and your soils because they've grown in your garden. And that's pretty much it to winter sowing. Get your containers, put some holes in it, put some soil in it, put a tag in it and on it, set it outside, and just make sure it keeps moist. It's moist, and then when it's time for it to grow, it will grow, and you can transplant it into your garden, and you can have as many tomatoes, peppers, or whatever you want in your winter sowing things. Now, some people say there's a thing about root vegetables. Don't winter sow root vegetables. I've winter sowed root vegetables, carrots and beets. Everything is about, the whole argument is about the roots being disturbed. If you let them get to the second set of true leaves, that is your time to take and transplant them. Do not let them grow fully in the containers or it won't work. And you just get a plastic spoon or fork like this, and you dig around. You want to have as much soil that's attached to the seed as possible, or to the plant. And you dig around it, and you literally will pick it up with the little seedling on it and plant that whole plot. You do not want to pull it out if it's a root vegetable, because then you would be disturbing the roots. But if it's something like onions or lettuce or tomatoes or something like that, the root it's not going to make a difference. And you can take that and plant it. Now, your stuff may not be, don't get tripped up because another gardener's tomatoes was this big in his winter sowing and yours was this small. Believe me from experience, if your plant is about that big, when you plant it out in the right conditions, it will catch up to all those big plants that you see. So the stores trip you up on size, and you go buy stuff that's sized up that might be overly matured, and you say, "Oh well, my stuff's not successful." But actually, you've done really well because you don't have to harden this off. You don't have to bring it outside and introduce it to the sunlight and to the elements because it's been grown inside. Because it's been grown outside in jugs, it's already used to the conditions. All you need to do is take your container and open it up and let the plant get some air. Let it sit like that for about a day or two and get to putting it in your garden. Now, one other thing before I let you go. Direct winter sowing. So I got me a little container here, and I took a container and I cut the bottom off. And I made what you call a cloche. If you have pots like this and you want to grow your plants directly in the pot, you can do everything we did. Add your soil, make sure you have holes in the bottom, put your tag in the container. You don't have to cut this except for cutting the bottom off. And the tops, just open the top. Don't take it completely off. Put it over your plant that you're planting and put that outside, and you have it directly sowed in a container. You don't have to transplant it. Now, I leave the tops on my directly sowed containers, or I will take the top and I will put it on the side of the container so that if we should have a cold snap, I can close the top of the container up and it will keep the heat inside of the container so that the plant won't die. I have done this with peppers. I've grown habaneros and it snowed, and this is all I did. I have grown, what is the Cherokee purple. I've grown them in buckets, and when it snowed, I just put a cloche on the top of it. If it got really cold, you can put maybe some plastic over it or something like that. But you can grow directly in your containers. You do not have to, grow, transplant, or whatever if that's not what you want to do. And this is what you call a direct winter sowing. Do I have any questions in the comment? I still have 3 people. Have you clicked like, subscribed, and shared? Have you given me a thumbs up, a heart, or a wow, or something to let me know that you're here? Could you tell me where you're at this current time? Or are you? I'm in Memphis. Where are you? Let me know the state that you're in. Let me know your grow zone, and if you have any questions. All right. Well, if I don't have any questions and everybody's good to go, you can follow me at Gardner Dean on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm always answering questions, and I also do live demonstrations. I do live teachings. You can contact me on Messenger if you want to schedule anything. I've done civic classes. I've done classes at churches. Just let me know if you're interested. Hit me up. Thank you again for coming to watch my live demonstration on how to winter sow. So, like I said, get you a container, put some holes in it, put some soil in it, put some seeds in it, and grow you something. Peace out, soil peeps.